Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Militar Ops. In this video, we will discuss the adjustment of the Doomsday clock to its closest position to midnight since its creation, signaling how close the world is to a potentially catastrophic event. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Despite its dramatic name, the Doomsday clock was created in 1947 by renowned scientists from the Manhattan Project, including J. Robert Oppenheimer. When it was first set, it marked 7 minutes to midnight, reflecting the fear of nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the clock fluctuated significantly. In 1953, it reached 2 minutes to midnight after the first tests of hydrogen bombs. However, in 1991, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the signing of the START Treaty, the world experienced a sense of relief, with many viewing post-Soviet Russia as a willing partner in a globally integrated future. Because of this perception, the Doomsday clock was moved back to 17 minutes to midnight, the farthest it has ever been. Today, however, we have regressed decades, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 reigniting the ghosts of the past. This situation worsened even further in November 2024, when the Russian government revised its nuclear doctrine, authorizing nuclear strikes even in response to conventional attacks and even against nations without nuclear arsenals. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, the world narrowly avoided nuclear apocalypse thanks to diplomatic channels, something that today appears extremely fragile. Additionally, New START, the last major nuclear arms control treaty between the United States and Russia, is set to expire in 2026. Moscow is demanding that China and France be included in future negotiations, while Washington resists. This deadlock significantly increases the likelihood that the last major nuclear arms reduction agreement will not be renewed. Without an agreement, a new nuclear arms race is inevitable, this time involving not just the US and Russia, but also rising nuclear powers like China. While Europe faces its biggest war since 1945, the Middle East remains in chronic instability. The war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, which began in 2023, has already claimed thousands of lives. Iran, the main financier of armed groups in the region, maintains a military nuclear program, which could soon result in an Iranian atomic bomb. In East Asia, China is increasing pressure on Taiwan, sending fighter jets and ships to the region in increasingly aggressive shows of force. In 1954 and 1958, crises in the Taiwan Strait nearly led to a conflict between the United States and China. Now, with Beijing tightening its grip, the risk is resurfacing with even greater intensity. Meanwhile, North Korea, which tested a miniaturized hydrogen bomb in 2017, has established itself as a full-fledged nuclear power and continues to develop ballistic missiles capable of reaching any point on U.S. territory. And we cannot forget artificial intelligence, which is revolutionizing the battlefield. In 2024, autonomous drones were used in combat in Ukraine, selecting targets without human intervention. A dangerous leap that reveals a frightening trend, placing the decision to take human lives in the hands of an algorithm. Today, AI also fuels mass disinformation, with bots generating deepfakes of world leaders, such as the fake video of Putin declaring war on NATO in 2024. During the Cold War, the KGB spread fake news via radio and newspapers, but now the scale is global and instantaneous. Governments are trying to respond, as seen in October 2024, when the United States passed regulations to limit military AI use. However, the order was revoked weeks later. This regulatory vacuum is reminiscent of the 2000s, when the militarization of the internet led to cyber attacks such as Stuxnet, which sabotaged Iranian power plants in 2010. And finally, there is the environmental issue. In 2024, the world reached 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, surpassing the Paris Agreement's 2015 target. Droughts in Africa's Sahel region are destabilizing countries like Mali and Niger, where jihadist groups recruit the starving. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, floods have displaced millions of people, a scenario similar to Syria in 2011, when a historic drought fueled protests that escalated in a civil war. For the military, this is a matter of national security. The Pentagon released a report in 2003 already warning that climate change could be the biggest conflict multiplier of the 21st century. Today, the U.S. Navy and Air Force are planning hurricane-resistant bases, while Russia sees Arctic ice melt as a strategic route, sparking a new race to the pole with China and NATO. In 1963, after the missile crisis, the United States and the Soviet Union established the famous red telephone to prevent communication errors. And in 1987, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty eliminated missiles in Europe. A clear example that diplomacy can work. Today, experts suggest that one of the best ways to ease these tensions is to reactivate multilateral agreements, particularly the INF Treaty, which expired in August 2019 after the U.S. withdrawal. And most importantly, negotiations aimed at renewing the New START Treaty, but this time including other nuclear powers as well. The Doomsday Clock is, at its core, a reflection of our collective choices. In the 1990s, humanity proved that it is possible to step back from the edge of the abyss. But now, with large-scale invasions involving millions of soldiers in Europe, with the Middle East increasingly engulfed in conflict, with hybrid wars using propaganda and the misuse of artificial intelligence, and with a planet facing an increasingly unstable climate, the world needs decisive action now. As Oppenheimer, one of the creators of the Doomsday Clock, once said, "We have become death, the destroyer of worlds. It is up to us now to decide whether we will also become the force that saves our world." And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now and turn on notifications to never miss an update.
Thank you all for being here today. It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster. It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.